I'm excited. Today, we're going to get into it. The first two segments will be a deep dive on new Gators co-defensive coordinator Patrick Toney and his scheme. We'll wrap up by previewing tonight's men's basketball game versus Alabama, only here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Head to netsuite.com/locked for special New Year financing, and it just trust me, just go do it. Happy Wednesday. I am Brandon Olson. You can find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. I'm also the founder of Whole9Sports.com, where you can find all of my written work. I'm buzzing through this because I'm really excited to talk about this. I was going to give you guys the backstory first, Patrick Toney, where he came from, who his mentor was. But I don't want to do that. I want to get right into the juicy part of this, which is the scheme itself. We'll talk about the backstory next segment. Don't worry, we'll get there. But I'm starting off with a scheme because, my Lord, I was talking to someone who knows Patrick Toney. I won't name that person, and I won't say, they didn't tell me much. They were just like, yeah, you're going to love him. So I'm excited for that. But there are two things with Ron Roberts that he does. And Ron Roberts, who you may remember that name when Florida was looking for a new head coach and when Billy Napier got announced as the new head coach. I spoke about Ron Roberts pretty extensively as someone who was the defensive coordinator at Louisiana before Patrick Toney took over. He was there with Billy Napier. He is now at Baylor as the defensive coordinator. He was a bit of a mentor to Dave Aranda, and he was there with, obviously, Patrick Toney and all that. And we'll get into that. But we're going to talk about two things that Ron Roberts kind of, I don't want to say revolutionized or introduced, but Ron Roberts really made his own and really implements a lot in his defenses. And Patrick Toney has borrowed that and is bringing that into his defense. And it's something that I want you Gators fans to get used to and to recognize when it happens, because you're going to see it probably a lot. The first thing is called the creepers. It's, you call creepers packages, creepers, whatever you want, but it's creepers. It's when there are 4 rushers. That's it. Very simple. 4 rushers. But one of the traditional pass rushers drops back into coverage. So you could see a D tackle drop back into coverage, an edge rusher with his hand in the dirt drop back into coverage, an edge rusher without his hand in the dirt drop back into coverage. We saw this a little bit. If you watch the Samford game, the Florida versus Samford game from earlier this year, Christian Robinson kind of brought some creepers up. He dropped Zachary Carter back into coverage. We didn't really see much of it after that, but we saw Zachary Carter drop back into coverage a little bit. So we've seen it happen in Florida before. It didn't work out, but we saw it happen. And here we're going to see it work out a little bit more. With the Gators, you're likely to see 2 down linemen, 2 stand-up edge rushers, and 2 off-ball linebackers. That's that 4-2-5. If you play Madden, it's 2-4-5. It's 4-2-5 is how we actually go by it. One of the down edge rushers, or one of the down rushers, or edge rushers, or down linemen will likely drop back into coverage, while an off-ball linebacker either comes in through the A-gap. The A-gap is center guard gap, or you see a defensive back blitz, which we saw Florida do a little bit with corners, and Jadarius Perkins particularly blitzed a little bit. So we'll see creepers happen. Ron Roberts, who, again, I've spoken about before, I will speak about again today. Ron Roberts, he loved it. And why does he love it? Because you hear something a lot in football now. When you watch an offense, the sexy offenses that are in football now, you hear the RPO, the run pass option. Ron Roberts loves creepers because you know what creepers can disrupt? The RPO. You see RPOs a lot where it's a quarterback reading and it looks like a play action and they just throw a slant quickly. That's usually an RPO. And Ron Roberts loves it because if you're running an RPO and you throw that slant, what happens if a defensive lineman happens to drop back into coverage? What if you have your edge rusher or your D tackle drop back into coverage right in the path of that slant? It could get picked, it could get deflected, it blows up the play, and it ruins the play. And that's the point of it. So Ron Roberts has said he loves it to negate RPOs. RPOs are something that you see so frequently in a modern day offense. So frequently. And yet Ron Roberts can negate it with creepers, which we're seeing more frequently in defenses. I'm telling you this now. I promise you, if you're into watching offenses it's way more interesting to look at how defenses can negate these offensive plays and these new concepts that take over. The read option, the RPO, the run pass option, all that stuff. So creepers, one way to stop it, and we're going to see it a lot because especially in college, you see RPOs a ton throughout. The next thing to talk about is sim pressure or simulating pressure, showing the blitz, but only rushing 4. Ron Roberts, again, has described it as, his quote is, "In my eyes, simulating pressure is giving the illusion of bringing 6, but only rushing 4." And I get, a lot of people say disguising blitzes, that's a thing. Here, you're showing the blitz. You're disguising that you're not blitzing. You look like you're blitzing, and then you're only rushing 4 and you're dropping 7 back into coverage. That is huge because a lot of offenses nowadays are predicated off of your pre-snap read. What the quarterback sees pre-snap will determine what he does with the ball, and it's usually a quick pass because that's what we see a lot, especially when you see a blitz. You're going to look for a quick pass. So if you look like you're blitzing and the quarterback's like, okay, I'm going to throw this quick slant, and then a linebacker drops right into that spot, screwed up offense right there. So, and if you play Madden, just because I play Madden, so this is how I'm going to describe it because it's very easy to think about. And you call the defensive plays. I want you to go to nickel. You go to 2-4-5 double A gap. And a lot of you guys are probably going to know that. You're going to have 2 down defensive linemen, 2 stand-up edge rushers, and 2 off-ball linebackers are actually played up into the A gaps, which again is between the center and the guard on each side. So you're going to have the linebackers area. That's a very common way to show blitz or disguise blitz. And then you call just base cover 3 or cover 1 or cover 2 man, whatever you call, where you only have 4 rushers. It's those 2 down linemen and those 2 edge rushers. And the A gap is actually going to be open because you have those linebackers dropping back. That's kind of what simulated pressure is like. When you look at that and you say, okay, like they're blitzing. If you've ever played against a 2-4-5 double A gap defense, you're like, okay, they're blitzing. It's going to be mid blitz and it's coming through hot. No, maybe if they contain the edges, it's going to get even hot. I'm a Madden nerd, you know that. But then you see it's just cover 3. It's just cover 1. It's just cover 2. It's that disguising the blitzes, but you're simulating. But it's the opposite of disguising the blitzes. Sorry, it's the opposite of disguising the blitzes because it looks like a blitz is coming. And then it's just a normal 4-man rush. We saw Christian Robinson try to toy with this a little bit against Florida State by moving Chris Bogle around, dropping him. And we saw that, but it didn't really work super effectively. But it was creative, and we'll give him credit for that. But simulating pressure is going to be a very frequent thing you see with the Florida Gators in 2022, hopefully 2023, hopefully 2024, hopefully until Patrick Toney gets gets a college head coaching job or an NFL job. I don't care. He's 31. Like, dude's not going to be here for long, but hey, we're going to have a good time with it. So simulating pressure, pay attention to that. Creepers, if you hear creepers, just know that you've got a defensive lineman dropping back, and that's what they are talking about. The commentators probably won't say it because, well, frankly, commentators not great. But creepers, simulating pressure, going to be huge for this Florida Gators defensive scheme in 2022 and beyond. It's the new year, so that means it's New Year's resolution time. It's about getting fit. If yours is about getting fit, there's that. I'm doing yoga daily and trying to get more fit, so there's that. But if you're trying to get fit, make sure to include Built Bar in your plan. I'm bad at keeping my New Year's resolution because I got a sweet tooth. I openly speak about that. I eat just garbage at certain times. Every year, that's always my weakness. But Built Bar, it's already coated in chocolate, so it's sweet, and I like that. And it's already, healthy for you. Most Built Bars have about 130 calories and 4 net carbs, along with 17 grams of protein. You could throw out your hidden stashes wherever you may have them hidden. My house, we don't have them. We just got a bowl with the chocolates there, and I just walk by and pop one out, and stuff like that. But you could throw out the stashes. Don't feel guilty. Just get Built Bar. Don't feel guilty. Get Builty. Sorry, I hate myself. I hate myself so much. Built Bar is always coming out with new limited time flavors, so you'll never get bored with the same old taste. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your next order. That is LOCKED, LOCKED 15 to get 15% off of your next order at Built or BuiltBar.com. Hey Gators fans, I'm here with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about, Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play, right now. Use promo code SCORE, SCORE, and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back per gallon. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. And I say this all the time. Make sure that it's like when you need to fill her up and just maximize your return there. I'm just like, now I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your money, but if your money's not making you more money, then you're dumber than a dummy. And let me know if you get where that quote's from. I just hope you do. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE, SCORE. Now we're talking about Patrick Toney again. This one's not going to be really scheme based. It's a little bit more his background and the favorite game that I've watched of his. During the hiring process, I spoke a lot about Patrick Toney. I spoke a lot about Ron Roberts, who's, again, at Baylor. He was at Louisiana beforehand. He's a bit of a mentor to Dave Aranda, who's currently the head coach at Baylor, where Ron Roberts is the defensive coordinator. He's also a bit of a mentor to Pete Golding, who, if you don't recognize that name, he is now the defensive coordinator at Alabama. So pretty good defensive coordinator, if you ask me. But Ron Roberts was the defensive coordinator at Louisiana when Billy Napier was first there. Ron Roberts was the defensive coordinator for 2 years there with Patrick Toney as the safeties coach. And then Ron Roberts left for the defensive coordinator job with Dave Aranda, and Patrick Toney became the defensive coordinator and the outside linebackers coach, where now he is, of course, defensive coordinator and safeties coach at the University of Florida. Ron Roberts, again, was a mentor to Dave Aranda, who then paid him back by giving him the defensive coordinator job at Baylor, and they were monstrous this year. Their defense was insane. If you don't know, take a peek. And also look at how they use their defensive backs, and that's probably how we're going to see Florida use their defensive backs. That's what I'm looking for, at least. The key to this defense, though, versatility and aggressiveness. And, you can include versatility in the simulated pressure and in the creepers, because obviously your defensive linemen are versatile. They're moving around. Your linebackers are versatile. They're moving around. So stuff like that. But multiple safeties is the thing we're going to see a lot of. I'm talking 3 to 4 safeties on the field at the same time. And I mean, don't be surprised with that. That's something you could see really. And I'm cool with it. I love this secondary. I love the safeties group that Florida has. You have Rashad Torrance II, who's an All-American snub, All-SEC snub. You have maybe Trey Dean coming back. We know Trey Dean got a combine invite. Don't know if that means he's gone or if he's coming back or what it may be. I doubt he's coming back, but maybe Trey Dean with Rashad Torrance, Donovan McMillan, Corey Collier, Mordecai McDaniel, Jadarius Perkins, 5-star Kamari Wilson is coming in too. You've got so much talent, so much young talent in this safety group that, yeah, Patrick Toney's going to rotate them a lot. I know that I mentioned particularly Patrick Toney rotating in his defensive line and his linebackers a lot. We're going to see his safeties move around a lot. I don't know about corners if we're going to see a lot. I know Kyrie Elam posted a video yesterday and everyone's like, please come back for one more year. And there are other people that are just like, hey, I would love it if you came back, but you're built for Sundays. Personally, I think he might come back. I'll take a little detour real quick. I think he might come back just because, he was injured. I think he's better than some of the corners that are kind of projected to go higher than him right now. But I think that the injuries really kind of screwed him up there, and playing in a crappy defensive scheme kind of screwed him up. So I think he might come back and make himself an extra few milli, but at the same time, wherever you get drafted, if you're meant to be, you'll make more money in the long run. So maybe he goes now, just proves his worth and gets more money. And hey, good for him. I'm not going to hate on him. But versatility and aggressiveness are big things here. Linebackers, I think we're going to see rotate between off ball and on the edge, which is one of the reasons that I wanted Mohamed Diabate to come back. But I don't think Mahmoud's coming back. That's just not what's going to happen. He seems like he's on his way out. He said that he was going to be making his announcement. I mean, at the time of release, he's probably already made his announcement. But at the time of recording, he has not made his announcement. He is expected to make it at some point today. I was hoping he'd come back because he's more of a natural edge rusher that could play off ball. And I think that would be savage in this defensive scheme, but it's not going to happen. Same thing with guys like Jeremiah Moon. If this was last year and Jeremiah Moon was coming back, I think he would have been a beast off ball and on the edge and stuff like that. But it's just not in the cards right now. I'm excited to see guys like Shamar James and Tyron Hopper really come into their own. I think Derek Wingo also is going to have a big year. I'm excited to see what we're going to have with these linebackers. And I want to talk about for just a brief minute, and I'll wrap up the Patrick Toney talk with this. It's probably not going to be a brief minute, but whatever. What he did to Malik Willis, and if you don't know, Malik Willis is a potential first-round quarterback in this year's NFL draft. So in a few months, he might be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Patrick Toney demolished him in every possible way. Like I know that you guys know I cover the NFL draft as well as covering the Florida Gators. So it's like, okay, like I'm gonna watch the first round quarter or the potential first round quarterbacks, and I was watching Malik Willis versus Louisiana. Whew, boy, when I tell you Patrick Toney just put on a clinic against Malik Willis, he really did. Malik Willis had by far the worst starting game of his career, just by a massive margin. It was the worst starting game of his career. And I'll throw the numbers at you because it's a lot easier to show to just when having a normal discussion. It's a lot easier to throw the numbers at you. Malik Willis went 14 of 34. I don't need those numbers. I know that off the top of my head because right after I watched that game, I was like, what were his numbers? Because he got killed. 14 for 34 passing. That's 41.2%. That one I know from looking at the numbers, of course. But he had 20 carries for 28 yards. And I know college does that dumb thing where a sack counts as a rush for negative yards. I don't care because he had 20. I don't care. He had 20 carries for 28 yards. And he is one of the most explosive ball carriers we'll see from a quarterback in this year's draft. And Patrick Toney had a field day making that whole offense useless, completely neutralizing Malik Willis's arm and leg, and Louisiana just, I don't even want to say murdered him, but they murdered him. It was an insane, insane game. And again, I was just watching it because I was like, I got to watch Malik Willis, and I know Louisiana's defense is goated, so I was going to watch it. And wow, what they did was remarkable. It was just, if you can watch Louisiana versus Florida, like please do. If not, I'll try to figure out a way to get you what I got that you could see it as well, because it was insane to watch. And I spoke to the person that knows Patrick Toney that I was talking to, and he was like, man, I haven't even watched it, but to box Malik Willis like the numbers say, I gotta watch it. It's it's savage. This is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, here we go, the baseball swing, your hat falls right over your eyes, and that just sucks. Is that how you're running your business with poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? What are you, a boomer? You disgust me. To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. Over 28,000, notice that it used to be over 27,000, over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Again, not locked on NCAA, just /locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 cloud financial system for growing businesses. That is netsuite.com/locked, LOCKED, and that's it. Now we're going to talk about Florida Gators men's basketball versus Alabama Crimson Tide tonight. Bama is no joke, ladies and gents. Florida is 9-3. The 9-3 Gators stayed on the 10-3. Number 15 Crimson Tide. Of course, Florida did not play their first game because they got canceled. Their first SEC play game because it got canceled because of COVID issues, which is awful, of course. I would know. The Crimson Tide have 3 wins over top 25 teams. All 3 were top 15 at the time that Alabama beat them, including beating number 3 Gonzaga early in December. So Crimson Tide is no joke, but I am very excited for this game because I feel like in most sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, soccer, hockey, maybe, I don't know hockey, but most sports, when you've got a game between a great offensive team like Alabama and a great defensive team like Florida, I feel like the defensive team usually has a bit of a leg up as long as their offense is somewhat competent. I feel, that phrase, defense wins championships. Offense sells tickets. Defense wins championships. or offense wins games if you want to use that, but defense wins championships. So you could bring either one of those. I don't care, but I think the great defensive team usually has a bit of a leg up on the competition, and I think that's no different when you look at this Florida Gators versus Alabama game. Alabama averages 82 points per game, but they allow 73 points per game. So they've been very bad on defense. And I don't want to say they've been bailed out, but they've been very Micah D'Antoni style, where it's like, hey, we don't care how much you score. We're just going to put up more points. It's very Big 12 offensy. It's Texas Tech style, where it's just, we don't care what you do. We're going to outscore that. Where Florida is pretty much the opposite, where Florida scores 74 points per game, which isn't bad, but they allow just 60 points per game, which is fantastic. They are very much like, hey, we'll chip you down. We'll chip you away. We'll do whatever we got to do. We'll drag out this win. You ain't putting up a ton of points on us. And I think that I feel like defenses generally tend to do better there. When you look at a great offense with a average defense and an average offense with a great defense, I feel like usually the defense is bailed out more there. Perimeter defense for the Florida Gators has to be on point because Bama attempts almost 30 3-pointers per game, and they connect on 9 points. They connect on 10 of them, whatever. So they're shooting 30%, or they're shooting 33%. They convert a third of their 30 3-pointers per game. And Florida, I mean, if you're giving up that many threes and you're letting them convert, it's just not going to be pretty for you because Florida doesn't have the offensive firepower to go right back at them. So that's where one thing you really got to worry about is perimeter defense. Rebounding is also where Florida could get into a little bit of a trouble and fall behind there. Bama's a very good rebounding team, not in terms of, obviously, they put up a lot of shots. They do. They put up a lot of shots. Their tempo is better than Florida. So they put up a lot of shots. But at the same time, they out-rebound their opponents. So it's not just like they're putting up a bunch of shots and they have the volume rebounds. No, they're putting up a bunch of shots and they're getting their boards. Whenever they do stop opponents, they get their rebounds. So rebounding is somewhere where Florida could fall into trouble. We've seen that happen before. Look at the Texas Southern game. It was pretty ugly. I think where Florida's going to separate themselves is the turnover battle, really, because, I mean, Florida's a team that, they turn the ball over 13 times. That's not great. Bama turns the ball over 14 times. That's not great. But Bama only takes the ball away 13 times per game. Not steals, just forced turnovers, or even not forced turnovers, just the other team usually turns the ball over 13 times per game against Alabama. So Bama is losing their turnover differential. Florida turns the ball over 13 times, but Florida forces 17 turnovers per game. So they're winning their turnover battle by 4. So they've got, I mean, if you look at it that way, by turnover differential, Florida's got a pretty hefty advantage there. It's 5. Florida gets about 30% of their points per game come off of turnovers. So Florida, it's not just about forcing these turnovers and getting these takeaways. It's about converting on them early, converting on them often, converting on them consistently. You need to be able to convert here because Alabama is a team that they're going to put up points. They're going to put up points, but you've got to be able to convert your points as Florida's offense off of these turnovers. It's not about just converting on these opportunities. It's about getting yourself more opportunities. I think Florida is going to come into this game well rested and fired up. I think you've got to be fired up. This is for Florida. You're a team that you've got people doubt you a little bit. You've shown why they should doubt you. It shouldn't come as a surprise. So I think this is the first SEC game for Florida this year. This is the first game of the year for Florida, or first game, obviously, of 2022 for Florida. This is it. Like, your Mississippi State game got canceled. This has to be a tone setter for you. You're playing the number 15 team in the nation, and we still don't know, are you really good or are you really bad or are you middle of the pack? So this is one of those games where you've got to show you're really good. You're here to play. And, I mean, come on, man. Like, I need Florida to beat Bama here because Bama's just got too many good things going on for them. So I need Florida to beat them. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Tomorrow, maybe we'll talk about the Florida Gators offensive scheme incoming. Who knows? We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll just talk about the latest news. I don't know yet. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. I'm also the founder of HomeLineSports.com, where you can find all my written work. That is WHOLE and INE Sports. And I will see you all tomorrow.